A few months ago, Perplexity AI made headlines with something that sounded absolutely ridiculous.
AI startup Perplexity.
Offering
$34.5 billion. All cash offer to buy Google Chrome.
Now, if you follow the space of tech even slightly, you would know that Google selling Chrome to a relatively unknown AI startup is absolutely crazy. Everyone within knew it would never happen. And still, for many days, every major media outlet covered the news, social media exploded with opinions, and all of a sudden, this AI company that not a lot of people had even heard about was being discussed in the same rooms as OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google. And while everyone was busy analyzing whether the deal made sense or not, Perplexity's website traffic jumped overnight, app downloads surged, and millions of people started trying it out. Now, you could look at all of this and call it genius marketing, or you could also take a look at all of this and call it a publicity stunt that is at the borderline of being called as manipulation. But that said, what is undeniable is that it has worked, at least till now. Today, Perplexity AI is valued at $20 billion, and it is crazy because just 3-4 years back, the company did not even exist. See, here is the thing about Perplexity. They are not competing with OpenAI and Google on technology alone. Because they cannot. These companies have unlimited resources. So instead of that, they are actually playing a very, very different game. A game where bold PR moves, strategic partnerships, and psychological positioning matter just as much as the product itself. And that is what I want to talk about in this video today. I don't want to blindly praise what they are doing, but I actually want to analyze whether this approach is actually sustainable or if they are building a house of cards that will collapse the moment the hype dies down. Because what Perplexity is doing is either going to become a masterclass in how to compete with big tech giants, or it is going to be a story about what not to do while building on someone else's foundation. This video has been made possible thanks to the support of Zerodha 01 Media Network. My name is Anurag Bansal, and let us decode. To understand what makes Perplexity so different, we'll first need to understand the game that all the other AI companies are playing. OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, all of these companies are all betting on one thing, and that is their AI models. Their entire competitive advantage is built around having the best, smartest, and the most capable AI model. They basically pour billions of dollars into training these models, they compete on benchmarks, and they race to see who can solve harder problems, who can reason better, and who can write more convincing text. And that also makes sense, right? Because if you're in the business of AI, you should have the best AI. That's a no-brainer. But Perplexity looked at this game and they decided to not play it at all. Now here is what is interesting. See, technically speaking, Perplexity does not really have its own foundational AI model. Instead, it actually pays companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google to use their AI models in their own interface. So in some sense, they are what you would call a wrapper. Now traditionally, being a wrapper is considered a weak position because if you don't own the underlying technology, what is stopping users from just going directly to the source, right? Basically, what is your differentiating factor? And that is the fascinating part. See, Perplexity realized that in a world where everyone is focused on building better AI models, there is a completely different game to also play here. And that is a game of distribution. Let me explain what I exactly mean here. See, think about Perplexity's strategy like a two-sided marketplace. On one side, they are aggressively acquiring users through partnership. And on the other side, they are using that user base to build business partnerships which become their actual differentiating factor in the long run. And the brilliant part is that these two sides feed into each other constantly. Let me explain how they are getting users to begin with. Now, most of you watching this video would probably already know that recently Perplexity announced a partnership with Airtel, which is one of India's largest telecom operators. The deal was very simple. Every Airtel customer gets a free 12-month subscription to Perplexity Pro. That is worth about 17,000 rupees per person completely for free. Now think about what this means. Overnight, Perplexity got access to potentially 36 crore users in India. Not through traditional ads, not through social media, but through a distribution deal with a telecom company. And it's not just Airtel. Perplexity has also signed similar partnerships with telecom operators in other countries. But telecom is not the only distribution channel channel that they are attacking. They have also partnered with Motorola to pre-install Perplexity in their upcoming phones. They are also in active discussions with Samsung about similar integration. And all of this achieves something that is very, very phenomenal. The friction suddenly goes away because the choice is made for you before you can even get a chance. And that, ladies and gentlemen, dramatically changes adoption rates for AI services. Now here is where it gets really interesting. See, with all of these users, Perplexity can now go to businesses and publishers with a very, very interesting value proposition. And that is exactly what they are doing. Sometime back, Perplexity launched something called Comet Plus. It is basically a $5 monthly subscription that has set aside roughly 350 crore rupees just to pay publishers whose content appears in Perplexity's answers. And major publishers have actually signed up for this. Time Magazine, Washington Post, Fortune, The Independent, etc. But the question is, why would major publishers really agree to this? The answer is very simple: user base. See, when Perplexity walks into a publisher's office and they say, we have millions of users and we want to unlock your premium content for them while we will also give you 80% of our revenue, that is completely a different conversation than what a smaller startup with just a few 100,000 users could have with them. So if you think about it, these telecom and device partnerships have basically given Perplexity the negotiating power with publishers and platforms. And these particular partnerships then go on and become the real differentiation factor that keeps users on the Perplexity platform. But here is the thing, the Perplexity interface itself, that is very easy to copy. The AI models that they are using, those are also rented from others. But the exclusive access to premium content from major publishers, that is hard to replicate. And that is exactly the same game that Perplexity is playing with their Comet browser as well. See, when Perplexity launched their browser recently, a lot of people were very confused because why would an AI company build a browser, especially when Google Chrome exists and already dominates the market very heavily? In fact, I don't know if you know this, but the Comet browser is literally built on Chromium, which is Google Chrome's open source technology. So in terms of the actual browsing experience, there is absolutely nothing special about it. It looks like Chrome, it feels like Chrome, it works like Chrome because it is actually Chrome, just in some sense with Perplexity's branding. So the basic browser technology itself is not the differentiating factor, and Perplexity also obviously knows that. So the difference that they are creating once again is in distribution and partnerships. Look, when you use the Comet browser with a Perplexity subscription, you can then read premium articles from partner publishers without really paying for everything separately. You basically get access to exclusive content that you would otherwise need multiple subscriptions to access. Now today it is articles, but tomorrow that same bundle could include things like Netflix, Amazon Prime and Hotstar. So the reason to use Comet is not just because it is a better browser technologically, it is because it unlocks content that no other browser can, at least right now. And where does that advantage come from? From publisher partnerships. Where do these publisher partnerships come from? They exist because of the user base. And where does this user base come from? They come from telecom and device partnerships. So if you look at it together, it all is interconnected. But now let's talk about why I mentioned that their strategy is either brilliant or it is extremely risky depending on how things play out. See, what Perplexity has built is essentially a big flywheel, but that brings a very big risk because if the telecom partnerships do not convert to active users, then the value proposition to the publisher weakens and the entire flywheel suddenly breaks. Very similarly, if publishers feel that the revenue share is not enough, they could also pull out, and all of a sudden Perplexity's main differentiating factor disappears overnight. And on the other hand, if device manufacturers like Samsung etc. decide that the integration is not worth it, or for that matter if another competitor pressurizes them to switch to them, the distribution channel closes as well. And because Perplexity does not really own the underlying AI models, they cannot really fall back on technological superiority. They are entirely dependent on these distribution partnerships in some sense. It is like a house of cards, but interestingly, it is also probably the only way that they could have competed with companies that have infinitely more resources and money as compared to them. Because if you think about it, Perplexity right now is literally paying everybody. They are paying telecom companies like Airtel to acquire users, they are paying publishers a revenue share to get exclusive partnerships, and they are even paying phone manufacturers like Motorola and Samsung for distribution deals. So in short, money is flowing out of Perplexity in every direction and barely any of it is actually coming back in. So Perplexity is essentially betting that they can grow fast enough and convert enough free users into paid subscribers so that they can make all of this economics work out. And that is a very, very big gamble. Perplexity's rise to $20 billion is fascinating, competing because it is not following the traditional playbook. They are not trying to build the best AI model, and they are not competing on technology only. Instead, they are betting that in a world where multiple companies have good enough AI models, distribution will be the actual competitive advantage. And they are building that distribution through partnerships that create a flywheel ecosystem. Now, if this works out, it could fundamentally change how we all think about competing in the AI world, because it would prove that you do not need the best technology if you have good distribution. But, and this is the big one, if it fails, then Perplexity could collapse faster than how fast it rose up. Because without those distribution advantages, to be honest, they are honestly not too different from a wrapper around someone else's AI models with no massive differentiating factor as such. This is one of the most riskiest and one of the most interesting bets in technology right now. And we are going to know very soon whether it pays off or not. That's all for today. Do you use Perplexity, and what do you think of their approach? Do you think it's smart competition or unsustainable hype? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I would love to discuss this with you. Also, if you found this analysis valuable and useful, please do hit that like button and do subscribe to my channel for more such breakdowns on marketing, business strategy, and how companies really compete. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.